There we go. It looks like we're live,
And in color.
which is always a good thing. I never look good with that ashen gray.
No.
So here we are, really coming up to, I guess, almost the first broadcast of summer.
Getting close. Getting close.
And we've discussed and thrown around a lot of things pre-production, and I think you're right. I think this is going to follow that great movie that starred a pretty remarkable guy by the name of Robert Redford. Had a very catchy tune, which we can't use for fear of.
Well, there was the other guy too.
Yeah. Now I'm stuck. Oh my God.
Robert Redford and the guy that made the salad dressing. Newman. Paul Newman. Right? Newman and Redford.
Yep. Newman
okay, well, now this is the Canadian version, right?
Well, yes, because we have some great actors that have been up here, although most of them live in the States, make money in the States, and claim Canadian citizenship only when somebody comes to pull in their arms and put some Canadian diatribe on social media or TV here. But yeah.
Okay, I'll do the background music, and you introduce the new movie. Okay, here we go. And
here we go. Last year had been on big. It's Canadian Parliament. How we had a great boogeyman next door to us that is now our best friend, almost. As long as we can keep our China friends, we'll be happy.
That's it. And it's now a movie called The Sting, Canadian Style.
That's right.
Starring Marco and Dougie.
And we've got Wee Davey out here, and we got Wabi Canoe in Manitoba, and they're all part and parcel of this whole thing where I think you're right. I think it's all designed solely to try and stay in power.
They're part of the Sting.
That's right. That's right. I never thought about it that way, but pre-production, I'm thinking, yeah, okay, yeah. I guess, and I guess maybe the hope that I have is at the end of this that we can get past the point of having to call everybody names, where we can actually get down and sit down at a dinner table or a coffee clutch and discuss things without somebody having to get up and leave in a huff.
Well, that's going to take a little time because the toxicity that's been, put into the air or into the political atmosphere is a little rich at the moment. But hope springs eternal. But let's face it, when the dear leader went to New York last week on his airplane, which, by the way, racks up enormous amounts of money for food. That's got to be some beverage service they have on those flights that the Prime Minister and his entourage of 20 apparently can rack up like 53,000 euros on one flight.
Well, I guess that's part and parcel with our lax immigration system. It's those people are on the airplane that are working almost for nothing that is helping keep the cost down.
Could be. But 53,000 euros, this is 80,000 something Canadian dollars after all is said and done, for a 6-hour flight. That's pretty rich. But hey, we're in a technical recession, so it doesn't matter.
Well, that's right. Yeah,
It's only technical.
we have to just remember technicalities.
It's a technical recession. It's not a real recession. It's a technical recession.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. And to go back to na 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 na, the dear leader goes to the New York Economic Club and says to the great investor class on Wall Street, "We're going to work with you to make America great again." And I'm thinking, I watched that video at least 3 times. You know that because first I thought,
Gunga Din, you're a better man than me because I couldn't even stomach looking at the guy in the.
Yeah, but could you imagine if you're one of these, you know, these elbows up types that are now doing the chicken dance because the dear leader is going, "We're going to make America great again." I mean, they must be losing their minds.
And again, how does, on one hand, he's down there telling us that we're going to work with America, but we're not going to buy your surveillance plane. We're going to go to Europe and buy theirs. And oh, by the way, the Asians have a really good submarine that we're going to buy. And we're going to have a closed door session with our new best friend from China, but you can't listen to it. You know, on one hand, everybody's saying he's not poking the bear anymore. And I'm thinking, well, maybe not with a big stick, but he's doing it with something because he's still poking away.
Well, I think, again, you know, we talked about this in pre-production. I would put betting money on that before the dear leader went to the economic club to give his speech, where everyone's ready for some Davos kind of stuff again, right? Or the stuff he mumbled on about when he was in Beijing about the new world order. He comes out with, "We're going to make America great again." Man, oh man, there had to be a phone call or a email from...
Or very, very, very sternly worded.
Oh, that's right. A sternly worded memo came from Washington, I suspect. And all of a sudden, you know, we're now palsy wowsy.
Yeah.
No, because to do that is
coupled with that too. You hit on a point pre-production that the El Bozos that are currently leading the country up here have one major thrust to their whole position is that we have to stay in power. So if the scheme of having a boogeyman is kind of wearing thin because we are technically in a recession and, you know, money is getting tighter, even some of the bought off state media here are starting to talk about the difficult choices Canadians are having to make. You know, do I put food on the table or do I put gas in the car? So these Liberal Party types now are probably starting to have little powwows together to go, what's our next demographic that we have to start wooing? And you said it, pre-production. You know, if there was an election that only people between the ages of 18 and 38 to 40 could vote, the Liberals would be shunned almost as bad as what the Brian Mulroney Conservatives were back in the late 80s, where they had three seats. And I don't think that the Liberal Party, one, they wouldn't know what to do with that because they got this self-delusional glow about how wonderful they are.
Well, certainly the people who are pulling the strings there are for vested interest reasons doing this. I mean, to deindustrialize the country, you must have a plan. It's, you know, it's the plan, which is murky at the best of times, is you know, to somehow replace the industries of the country with some other profit-making scheme, but it's unclear how you do that, because if you hear the word salad that comes out of the dear leader's mouth about the carbon bank and all this other, marketing carbon credits, and nobody that I know can explain this to me. I don't understand it.
Well,
and I'm not even going to, tax myself mentally to try to figure out how the hell you take an expense and turn it into a profit. It's just not possible.
But then we're seeing Europe is now starting to turn away from this greenness because it's costing a lot of money and it's really fixing nothing. People in Canada now are starting to say, okay, well, if we put out so much fossil fuels into the air, and then one tree takes so many tons out of the air, and we multiply that by the 2.5 trillion trees that are in Canada alone, we're at about a negative 40 on carbon. Like, come on, give me a head. This is just money for them to go out and spend around the world.
Well, there's a cabal operating here, and I think at some point in the future we may not live to see it because these things take a long time to, be unearthed. But there's some skullduggery going on deep in this system, because there's just no common sense to this whole scheme. I think that's why the watershed moment may have happened last week or this past week in New York, because this makes no sense. It just doesn't. Why would someone that worked so hard to, as you said at the beginning, create a boogeyman to stay in power, which was the Americans and Trump, to talk about this climate saving the world thing and the new world order, which is completely out of step with everybody else? Why you'd want to cozy up to a communist Chinese government, which apparently has over 1,000 agents running? I'm sorry, that's the other bunch. That's the Indian terrorist bunch that's got 1,000 folks running around, extorting people of Indian culture. But we have apparently more diplomats in Canada than any other country in the world from China. And you're going, what are they doing here? And of course, with the Chinese foreign minister wandering around in Ottawa this weekend in complete secrecy, because we're not going to be having any discussion openly about what we're doing here. Well, I am quite sure, going back to what I said earlier, somebody sent a strongly worded memo from Washington to the PMO and said, "We're watching you. I would suggest you watch your P's and Q's." So, we've crossed some kind of Rubicon, and even the sting Canadian style is becoming evident.
And I guess I still have a concern when the Chinese leader was telling us that we had no business putting our one ship down the straits of Taiwan, and you really shouldn't be sending any of your MPs over there to sit and look at Taiwan.
Yeah.
Totally forgetting about that's where, I would venture to say 50% or more of our technological industry is coming from, with our need to build computers and blah, 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 blah.
That's right. That's right. Taiwan is the world's manufacturer, period, of chips. Yeah, well, and what's even more peculiar, because as you know, Bob, there are no coincidences in politics. That ship, the HMCS, I think it was a Charlottetown, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. But anyway, one of our operational frigates, out of the 12, one must have been wandering through there. Little sarcasm. That happened on May 23rd. We only found out about this Thursday, that this ship had passed through the straits. Now, that's kind of interesting, because if the Chinese really had their shorts in a knot over this, the foreign minister would not be coming here for a powwow. He would say, "I'm canceling this because you've insulted me, or you've insulted China." So something's goofy going on here with this one. Again, it's the because there's no coincidences here, okay? So why the secrecy? And you know, if our friends to the south of us suddenly get on their high horse and say, "Listen, we're getting very concerned with the infiltration of the state, that is to say, the government of Canada, by Chinese and Indian," because and what's interesting about that is these guys don't even like each other. The Chinese and the Indians aren't pals, but they both have targeted Canada as the back door for various reasons into the Western Hemisphere, primarily, I suppose, because we are right next door to the United States, which is really much more important to them than we are. You know?
I think we touched on that in previous episodes too, where we used to think that we were special. And when we found out we weren't special, we were running around the world trying to curry favor.
with a curry bomb.
Or something, yeah. And, you know, we know that there is an agreement, a very, very high level agreement between China and Canada with various, well, with our national law enforcement agency, but they can't talk about it unless China says it's okay. What's in the agreement that, you know, is that like super secret, double extended?
It's none of your business.
Or, to quote another famous movie, that is not the MOU you were looking for.
Well, you know, these are the things that you know, make it so juvenile. And to get back to the other point you made about, you know, we're going to buy airplanes, surveillance airplanes from the Europeans, Saab in particular. Well, just to put this into context, Saab doesn't build the plane that the radar goes on top of. Bombardier builds the plane. It's a Global 650, which is basically nothing more than an executive jet. Okay, this is not an extended 737 from Boeing that you put a great big, you know, radar twirling thing on top of the fuselage. This is a little biz jet that's going to get a thing put on its roof that looks like a big hockey stick. Okay, it's somewhere in the European defense establishment, which is obviously not even going to be compatible with NORAD or anything we got going on in this part of the world, because that's going to be our Arctic surveillance program. So, you know, the sting happens again. So who's benefiting from this? Bombardier is still going to be building planes in Quebec. Okay, even though they gave away most of the big business to Airbus, which is the, you know, the C series, the little biz jets now are going to be, you know, saddled with looking after the Arctic for surveillance with some kind of a gizmo that the Swedes and God knows who else in Europe is going to concoct, which will be not interoperable, I'm quite sure, with the stuff that's already in progress.
The amazing Karnak knows the answer.
That's right. So, you know, I thought, okay, the people aren't paying attention, but again, it's another sting, because this is not, you know, this is like, you know, a DIY kit that they're going to put together here.
We've done that so many times. We bought leaky submarines from the Brits.
That's right. Submarines with screen windows in them.
Seconds from the Australian
F-18s. That's right. Which turned out they couldn't fly in Canada because they were designed for Australian environment, which is hot, dry, tropical.
So, I guess these guys to stay in power will, you know, we've now refocused from the terrible man President Trump to. We have to be patriotic, you know, and we're gonna do this for Canada, you know.
Yeah, sure.
We're gonna do all this, and you're gonna love us. You know, forget that technical recession nonsense. Forget the fact you can make a distinct choice for your family of putting fuel in your car or food on the table. Yeah, that's just minor things.
It's a technical thing.
Yeah, it's a technical thing.
Yeah, are you going to eat or are you going to put gas in the car? It's a technical question.
Yeah.
Na, 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 na. We're really jaunty today, I got to tell you.
Well, we've had so many dire, terrible prognostications come on our show many, many times. I think it's nice that we're doing something that's a little light.
Yeah, that's right. It's light, all right. We're making fun of this, but it's deadly serious
It is.
stuff. And I don't know how we're going to do this, get through the summer, frankly, because we have this percolating thing out in Alberta. I was very upset over the comments by the dear leader that 50% in one is not enough for Alberta. And this is a guy who claims he was born in Alberta, but can't decide whether he was born in Alberta or the Northwest Territories, because it depends on which speech he's giving where. But I digress. The point is that for those of us in Eastern Canada, or almost in the Midwest where I am, because where I live it's the beginning of the Midwest. I kind of have a, a soft spot for the Albertans because they're saying things that are fact when it comes to the economy, when it comes to representation in Parliament, when it comes to their productivity compared to other parts of the country. And these are emotional questions. These are not, just technical questions. These are very emotive, and you can make light of it from a legal perspective, as in the case of the Prime Minister. Well, no matter how they vote, it's not enough. You can't do this because you're just basically,
fire.
Yeah, you're making people even more pissed off. I don't want
to get the author of the Clarity Act, Stéphane Dion, coming on talking about that. Well, that was never the intent. It was only done sort of as a stopgap. Well, okay, fine, but if you had any credibility, I might listen to you.
Well, look, like I said, there are no coincidences in politics.
No.
So with the departure, for example, of this lunatic Guillaume, who was basically the lightning rod for all these green climate crap that went on for 10 years. He was the convenient whipping boy for those who were inclined to believe in this nonsense. But clearly he's no longer in favor with those who pull the strings. His antics don't garner enough support in the great unwashed to keep him around. So he legitimately goes, I'm pissed off. I'm out of here because I and I have to say, in principle, whether I agree with his views on he said, I'm done with you guys. But that's basically what's happened. And so others may, who were also embedded in this whole green malarkey, might be thinking, well, our time is up. My boots are full, and it's time for me to move on.
Well, and I think that probably hits on Guillaume as well. If he had any principle, he would have known a year and a half ago that he was on the outs.
Sure.
But he had to stick around to get his pension. He had to get that magic.
Yeah, I know. It is what it is. But I'd rather him get his pension and leave town and save the country than keep him around and see it go down the toilet. So
we have that with a lot of cases. We had the well, I don't even know if he's still Mr. Bouchard, who very, very anti-Canadian in many respects. Certainly liked probably his parliamentary pension that he got.
Sure. Well, look, it's interesting because one of the great proponents of all this is Lizzie May, the lady from Connecticut, who has gone through a number of MP seats. She started off in Nova Scotia and ends up on your neck of the woods. is, basically made it. She's a professional politician, and is now sobbing that her great hero Guillaume has left the stable. Well, what did you think? But who cares? A person who represents a party of one is just,
yeah. Well,
tells you
it's
everything
all
you
part
need to
and
know
parcel
about
of
this
being
movie.
on the left coast here.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, it's if it's any consolation to our viewers and listeners, this is a humorous version to look at it of a very serious number of issues that we have going on here. But maybe that's the way we're going. We're lightening up a little bit, perhaps right across the board. Frankly, if the leadership wants to stay in power but does all the things that make sense, I say hats off, go for it. Okay, I just don't know if I trust them that far. That's the problem, because a sting is a sting is a sting.
They don't have a stellar record on being able to do it. Look at our great leader. How many times did he change his story on so many stories? Like Mr. Flip Flop, they were calling him for a while. Is this just another one where I'm gonna work with this particular storyline until something better comes along?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm enough of a cynic to believe that that's probably the case, but it will work well so that we get reelected. And like that bad guy, the new boogeyman, by the way, is Mr. Polyev, who seems to have been a boogeyman all along that we really didn't know.
Yeah, well, he's blamed for things that he can't even. This is the funny part. When I talk to people who say, well, that Polyev is responsible, and I go, Polyev is not in power. Why are you blaming someone who hasn't got any juice to do the things you say he's doing to cause trouble here? Because it's just, that is, do you understand how the system works? The guy with the votes calls the shots, and he has no votes. Okay, he's not in power. He's not the prime minister.
Yeah.
Some other guy is the prime minister, and before him, a total moron was the prime minister.
It's very, very reminiscent. We were out in our back garden the other day, and our next door neighbors are very ardent Montreal Canadiens hockey fan.
Oh dear, don't bring that up.
Yeah, well, we're going to kind of open that up a bit, but it was amazing that the neighbor had said after the loss the other day, where not just yesterday, the two before, where they were outshot almost 3-1 or 4-1. The comment was, well, we have to fire the coach, which seems to be the great Canadian fix-all for everything in sports. Well, we'll fire the coach. And forget the fact that these guys are making, $4 million a second that they're on the ice. Let's fire the coach who's getting $3.95. I guess that's really what goes on here with Mr. Polyev, right? I mean, and I did see that. Like somebody in social media said, well, if you didn't have Mr. Polyev, who would you pick up?
Well, that's right. But in fact, to just to be really naughty, was Carney at the game? The Carney curse,
I didn't see him at the game, but I did see one where he was glad handling a couple of the Montreal players before they left. So,
well, the score certainly showed that the Carolina Hurricanes had beat the pants off the Habs, sadly.
Out of respect for Montreal, they were a young team. They went farther than anybody ever thought they probably would have.
Yeah.
Did they give too much too soon and ran out of gas?
All I know is that once again, there's not a Coupe Stanley is not coming to Canada.
Well, it might. There might be a couple of Canadians on those winning team, whichever one it will be, who might bring it to some little town or village in Canada, and somebody be able to look at it, and maybe it will inspire them to become the next Wayne Gretzky or
but it's like I said, was Carney at the game. Everywhere he goes, trouble follows.
Yeah, not just politically.
Well, if I was a professional team, like for example, will he be going to the FIFA games in Vancouver and Toronto, where any Canadian teams are playing?
I would think so, but
oh my God, we're already behind the 8 ball on that one. The betting money is not on Canada winning the World Cup here.
That's right. That's right. So just to make us feel better, we better invite the infamous leader out to glad handle all the soccer players. So at least we have somebody we can blame.
Well, wait a minute. If Canada's playing country X, if he goes and shakes the hands of players on country X,
the fact that he was actually there is the key.
Well, on that positive note,
we hopefully, have given our viewers a little bit of room for chuckles, and if they hit the like button and send us comments or negative.
Well, actually, I have to tell you before you sign off, we got a comment. I've got to get it on my phone from somebody who wanted to tell us how they felt about our business with this whole stuff, right? And so I will just find it here in a second, where someone wrote that the weirdness that we're seeing is only in our minds. Okay, so this particular person, and I won't name the person because it doesn't matter, because people are allowed their opinions.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this individual writes, pretty sure you need to read both. This is in commentary about we're saying, why would the dear leader suddenly want to make America great again when he's been telling us that's not our job, right? So this guy writes to us and says, pretty sure you need to read both the New York and Davos speeches again. Both are true. There is a rupture and we have to diversify. But with our raw materials, we can help make America great again. Try to make it look like a turnaround is partisan BS.
Well, and rightly, you're right. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I guess my bias is that I don't trust a politician as far as I could throw them. They have just really gone into this realm, I think, because they can't. Well, with the dear leader, perhaps an exception, that if they actually had to go and run a business, they'd be on the bankruptcy line. And maybe he is too. He had to leave the Bank of England under suspicious circumstances. But regardless, yeah, and I guess maybe the takeaway point I would get from that is okay, yeah, you're right. We have to get over our partisanship. We should be looking at the left side, the right side, the center. And if that changes your opinion or it makes you different than look differently at something, well then that's what we should be looking at. That's what we should be doing.
Exactly. But this is okay because at least the commentary wasn't full of F-bombs and whatever, which is unfortunately a lot of times. And I just delete those kinds. I don't care. If you're gonna if you want to have a reasonable challenge to what we believe to be a fact, and you can prove otherwise, not emotionally charged nonsense that your team is losing, so I'm going to just go out and spitball everywhere against you with curse words and F-bombs and whatever. That we're not impressed with that, but we are impressed with if you can come up with reasons that maybe we've missed. For example, since this seemingly new approach to the trade agreement with the Americans, well, good luck with that, because if it works, we're 100%
absolutely,
behind
yeah.
it.
I think we are really behind the eight ball on that, where our other trading partner, Mexico and the U.S. have been in dialogue a lot longer than we have.
Yeah. Well,
so we have a lot to run and catch up, and if this works, great. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've already been on record as saying that if Poly Market agrees with us that there is not going to be a trilateral trade agreement anyway. This is a done deal. The Commerce Secretary Bessent's already said there's as much, and so has Orange Man. So we have to deal with the real world, and when 80% of your business is in the real world, you can't come up with 20% fantasies to fix it.
Well, not unless you come out to the West Coast here and imbibe.
Oh, your stuff is better than our stuff.
Well, apparently, we used to have some world-class stuff that was on the market there.
All right, we got to go. Listen, yeah. I'll see you next week. Sorry for the delay, viewers, listeners, but we want to make sure that we pack enough stuff into the program.
Yeah. Don't forget, like buttons, comments, buy us a coffee if you can. What else do we need to tell them?
As they say in Mexico, adios.
Adios.